All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Muzzle is Off podcast. I am your host, Nakia Monet, and today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do something a little different. I'm venturing away from the topic of relationships because I didn't feel right actually talking about relationships today. I had a death in my family that was extremely unexpected, and the death was actually due to murder. And I didn't feel that it would be right for me to continue on and have a conversation about relationships when one of the toughest things that you can face in your family as a a family member or even as a friend as anything is death by murder. So I really wanted to discuss, and I really wanted to talk about gun violence in America, gun violence within our communities, within the Black community. And I wanted to have a candid conversation with people that might have experienced it within their own families, experienced it within their own friends, because I think that it's important that we begin to openly discuss how we feel and how it actually does affect us. I know this morning when I found out that my cousin was murdered, I found out via Facebook. And one of the toughest ways for you to find out about death is on social media. And the reason being is because it's so unexpected, because you're just literally like waking up in the morning, and boom. And you're like, what in the world is going on? What happened? What is this true? And then that's when you start making phone calls and you start making, sending text messages out, and to discover that someone in your family has died like that due to a senseless murder is heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. It's painful. It causes anger. And it truly is a hurt that is truly it's unexplainable. So I really wanted to talk about that today because I think that a lot of us have experienced that level of pain. A lot of us have experienced that level of hurt. A lot of us have experienced that level of anger. And we don't necessarily talk about it. We chalk it up. We deal with it with family. We make T-shirts and all other types of things in order to carry on the person's memory and their legacy. But we don't necessarily talk about how we actually feel. We don't necessarily talk about how, we want to, drive change and cause change to happen. And we also don't necessarily talk about why there is so much gun violence within our own communities and what is going on within our own communities and within our own self, that I'm not even going to say that it's acceptable, but it became a norm. It became something that's normal. Would y'all agree? It's like it became something that was normal and almost expected, not accepted, but expected, within our communities. And oftentimes, a lot of us, because it became a norm and it became expected within our communities, we move away from those communities, to find a safer place, to find a better place to raise our kids. But the truth of the matter is people are still in the communities and they have to live and go through what we left, to build upon and to make and to have a better life. So let's talk about that. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the deaths, the violence, the anger, and how it truly makes us feel. I just want to unpack all of that because I know for myself, today was a rough day, you know what I'm saying? And in order to be able to really process everything and still not understand and still be angry and still be upset and still be hurt. So let's do that. Let's talk about that. Anybody?
I just want to kind of piggyback really quickly off of what you said about it being the norm. Where I come from, which is Compton, California, it was most definitely something that was the norm. You would get brownie points for taking somebody's life. You would get clout, so to speak. You wanted the name that, oh, he or she is a shooter. They down with it, so it became not only the norm, it became something that made you well known for taking somebody's son, father, cousin, nephew, family member life. so unfortunate, but so true.
Anybody, y'all could jump on in here. Well, what I'll do is I'll piggyback off of what Nikita just said, um, because it's the truth. You know, like you said you grew up in Compton, California, and you know there's a lot of gang violence in Compton. You know, and it does become a norm within the gang culture. You know what I'm saying? As long if how many tattooed teardrops do you have? That's how many bodies you got. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Back in the day, they used to throw up sneakers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody that just got murdered. You know, there were so many different symbols within our community that would let us know what happened to someone. You know, whether it was that we built a shrine of, you know, a memorial shrine to say that, you know what, this life was taken too soon, and all those that were in mourning could do it. I know for my family, we've done it, you know, and but that's our symbolism. But it's like, why did that become such the norm within our communities? You know, like that's where I'm at. Like, where did this normalcy of
Originate from?
and a lack of caring for life?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is there such a lack of caring for life? If you don't care about your own life, then you don't care about the next person's life. So it's easy for me to take your life because I don't even care about my life. And the truth of the matter, that's it right there. Especially in the cold, in them streets, you can't care.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you care, that means you're weak. If you care, that means that if it come down to between my life and your life, I got to take yours before you take mine. So I can't care to lose my life because I got to care that much to take yours if it came down to it. But the truth of the matter is, we then have situations where we have drive-bys. We have drive-by shootings. At that point, you're just spraying a whole block.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the love in that? I know some years ago, they sprayed the block and my little cousins got shot.
Mm.
That didn't have nothing to do with whatever they were shooting up about.
You know, I think that to go back to the question that you just asked, you know, pretty much like where did it originate or come from? I can say partially it came from, I mean, we can all go back to slavery and everything. And we know that this is where the lack of organically really loving ourselves as a culture,
Mm-hmm.
you know, was never really taught organically. You know, it was always tainted, it was always dysfunctional. And when you come from, you know, that not genuinely and authentically knowing how to respect and value and knowing your value and your self-worth, not only as in family but as in culture, of course you're going to have a total disregard for human life.
I
Because
agree.
truth be told, um regardless of what topic we talk about, when it comes to our culture, a lot of times it's going to go right back to us not wholly knowing who we are and how to love ourselves, you know?
And I guess we could say that that's a learned behavior. Go ahead, Jamel.
Sometimes I think people don't receive, or when people don't feel loved,
Mm.
which is, since I don't feel loved, I go after feeling powerful.
Mm.
I go, and they mistake powerful for a gun. They mistake powerful for uh or any type of fear tactic. And so what they do, instead of embracing love, they're afraid themselves. They're afraid of someone really trying to love on them, because somewhere along the line they have been dropped and they've been disappointed, or they've been abused. So a lot of people who act in this manner, they act in this manner because they're coming from a place of I've never received love, or I've never felt that love, and because I didn't feel it, I have to fill that void with something, you know. So it's very tragic, heartbreaking, you know. This in the I know we talk about slavery, but we was doing very well. As in, we were building. We had our own towns. We were doing had our own little structure going until, you know, they came in and wiped out Black Wall Street and did all of that stuff, you know. But there came a point, realized if we can get the family divided,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
you can't you can't be helped by public out of your house. Got the man out of the house. Now you have these young boys. Growing up without guidance, growing up without the teach them how to be men, and then what you end up, for some reason, generations past have dropped the ball because they began to normalize. Okay, well, they're shooting here. That's what we do here. Oh, you walk in this neighborhood, and in a way, it became part of their street cred. You having a bad neighborhood, being able to survive a bad neighborhood, and you know, we normalized it for whatever reasons. I have no idea, because at some point, no one wants to have their mother, brother, nephew, cousin. Nobody wants to have them taken that way, you know. Much like you, last year, my nephew was 20 years old, shot and killed because of something. So, you know, I'll relinquish.
If I can say this really quick, coming from that street life, because I came from the street life, and I used to game bang, and I used to have the desire to, I'll do whatever it takes to, you know, prove myself. And it was because I didn't have a real solid identity in who I was, you know. And so a lot of times when we don't know who we are looking for that identity. And like you just stated, it's the feeling of wanting to be powerful, because that is some sense of identity. I'm powerful, you know, I'm a shooter. It gives you identity, unfortunately. I mean, we become a product of our environment.
Marcus?
Yes, ma'am. Becoming a product of your environment can be a troubling thing, especially when tearing down of communities, as Jamel said earlier. I didn't grow up in the best of neighborhoods, but it worked because we had programs and we had things to escape. So the busier you were, the lower your chance of was getting caught up in your normalcy, because it was still there. But because I guess I was blessed. I'm not gonna say I guess I was blessed to have opportunities to be able to escape, even if it was for a moment. And that's one of the things that kids miss is that sense of community, reinforcement, love, teaching skills, confidence. You know, even with the males not being in the home, or the moms not being in the home, or kids being forced to grow up so fast. Just it's so many things, and it hits so many directions, and it's almost, I will say, it's unforgiving, because we can't just address one direction. Like, you know, the moment we address violence, then, well, we have to address the drugs. when we address the drugs, then we have to address absentee parents. And it's not just males that are missing. Some are females. I know some boys who grew up with dads that were just way too aggressive, just way too aggressive. And so what? What happens? Dad's too aggressive one day, punch his son in the mouth for something he did. Son goes somewhere in the community, be like, hey, yo, man, you seem like a cool dude. Oh, man, yeah, man, we ain't gonna treat you like that. We see what your dad do to you. What are they doing? Let me infringe on your community and bring you into my community. And sometimes, like we've all said, when you're looking for that something, and everybody's something is something, when you're looking for something and somebody offers it, and if you've been yearning this thing, one, you're going to be impulsive, you're going to be ambitious, and it's going to drive you.
That's the truth. Trees, you have anything to add?
I most certainly do. I just want to add, just kind of piggybacking on what everybody has said. I really think it is the source of all of the issues that we have in our communities, whether it be gun violence, drug poverty. I think a lot of it has to do with our desire to seek status symbols. And I say that because as African American people, if you have ever been to Africa or if you've ever just paid attention to tribes and stuff like that, everything that we do as African people has something to do with status. And so just like with entertainment, everything we do has to do with entertainment. But when it comes to status, of course, you got the leaders, and then you have the people under the leaders, and then you have the soldiers that are protecting. And as the community of Black people, I often hear people say all the time that some of the things that we do, we don't realize that we do, that they do in Africa as well. And for me, when I went to Africa in 2018, I actually had the opportunity to experience that phrase or that saying, where we do the same thing as our pretty much ancestors, if you will, because it's embedded in us. It's almost like something in our genes that still connects us to the motherland. So going back to the gun violence, as a form of status, like usually when people commit any kind of violence, it is to belittle someone or put someone beneath them. And then, with gun violence, of course, you have different outcomes because, it could just hurt someone, or it can even kill someone, or it could just scare the community. And so when you look at it in that aspect, the person who is the shooter is typically the person who is seeking the status, whether they are doing it to show, they were they're the winner out of the competition, if you will, or whether they're doing it to show that no matter who comes to them, they're not going to just let anything happen. They're going to make sure they're the one on top. Or if it's to keep people afraid, it all becomes a status symbol. And so I think a part of our issue as a community with gun violence and all that stuff is the fact that we don't understand that this is something that is embedded in us when it comes to status. You have to excuse the dogs.
That's all right, girl.
But that's just kind of how I look at things when it comes to, how we respond as people. And then, also considering the fact that gun violence is going to be heavy because guns are implanted in areas where it's almost like a toy, if you will. And then when you look at the areas, most of the time your gun violence is going to be higher in the poorer communities. And in poor communities, a lot of times you're not going to have as many opportunities to like the program. So like I was fortunate to grow up in I was fortunate to be able to go to a school outside of my area by traveling. They call it my majority to minority. And in that school, I had more opportunities at that school in a different area than I did in my neighborhood, would have in my neighborhood. And so me as far as, you know, being in school, my status symbol was different at the school far away than the one in the neighborhood. You know, it was completely different. And that's something that's important to us as human beings. And, you know, let alone when we're in situations where, you know, there's poverty per se, where people are poor, then you have opportunities for people to do things that aren't progressive. So, you know, that's like, I don't know if you guys heard about it. I don't know what part of the news it made, but there are kids. I'm in Atlanta, and so in Clayton County, which is right below Atlanta, there are kids outside of a convenience store playing with a gun. They was tossing it back and forth, and it was on camera. And then the police came, you know, they got a call saying the kids are playing with the gun, blah, blah, blah. And the police came, and the first responding police was like, you know, put your hands up, put it down, all this stuff, whatever. And these are kids that were under 13 years old. And for those kids, they didn't know what was going on because, for one thing, no one knew until they got closer to the kids that it was a toy gun because it was black and it looked like a real gun. And so, you know, in situations like that, when it, you know, comes to gun violence, you kind of look at that and you're like, well, they had nothing better to do. And because they're in an area where there's not many activities like there are in the white neighborhoods or the rich neighborhoods, you know. So I think a lot of that, the gun violence has a lot to do with status, and it has to do with your environment when it comes to what's readily available for you to do. So, you know, we occupy our mind with whatever we are used to being around, or whatever entertains us. And if there's nothing there, we'll find something else to do.
I think what's also interesting is the fact that on average in the United States alone, there's about 40,000 people that are killed due to gun violence on average. And what's more alarming is that the majority of these guns are purchased illegally in this country. They're purchased on the black market, or, you know, a very small percentage of it is where someone else purchased a gun for them. You know, some people, you know, might walk into a gun show and, you know, purchase a gun. And one of the things that they keep saying is that stricter gun laws are not going to prevent what's going on in the black market. And that's the truth. Because the black market is not regulated by law. Clearly, it's the black market. It's illegal gun sales, right? So it's like, at what point in time do we stop calling for stricter gun laws? Because the stricter gun laws, really, what they're calling for has a lot to do with these mass shootings that are going on, which are not in our communities, and don't necessarily affect us directly as much as what's going on within our communities with illegal guns. You know, at a certain point in time, right, they had the programs where they were giving people money for guns, no questions asked, right? Turn it in, we're gonna pay you, boom, no questions. You know, where's that at? You know, where is the providing of opportunities? Where is, okay, 9 times out of 10, possibly, I don't know, I didn't look at the statistics on this, but you don't just wake up one day and decide I'm gonna be a criminal. You don't just wake up one day and say, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I am going to be a thief. I'm going to be a murderer. I'm going to be a rapist. I'm going to be a molester. You don't just wake up. Like, there's a pattern of actions and possible emotional abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse that goes on that no one actually chronicles or even takes into account, right? Because if you get caught in a crime, I'm just going to lock you up. We're not necessarily rehabilitating you in jail. God forbid I rehabilitate you while in prison. God forbid I show you that there's another way of life while you're in prison. It's only in certain states and in certain prisons do they have actual rehabilitation programs. It's not wide, amongst the prison population. And most times, in order for you to even get into those programs, you have to be a certain type of offender. You're not in maximum security, Although, back in the day, yes, was it possible to obtain certain degrees while in prison? Absolutely. They made it that much harder now. You're not going to be a maximum getting a freaking bachelor's for free on the state.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They might allow you to get certain certifications so that you can work for free for the state while you're in prison, right? Because a lot of them do get certifications. But what do you do when I come home off straight out of prison? I have to come into the same environment. I have to come into the same atmosphere. I have to come into the same mindset. Because while I was in prison, there is no mindset. You know what I'm saying? There is no difference. I'm being yelled at. I'm being told when to eat. I'm being told when I can shower. I'm being told when I can answer the phone. So when I'm in prison, I got all this type of structure around me because at this time, I got to do this. 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 So then when I come out, I feel free. So at what point are we really reintroducing people back into society? And then on top of that, for the ones that haven't actually gone to prison yet, right? But what they have done is that they've built up themselves within the lifestyle, right? Whatever that lifestyle may be. You know what I'm saying? Whether I got to be the toughest person on these streets, because a lot of the times the truth of the matter is when you go and you shoot up a whole block, you're sending a message. There's a message that you want to get across to somebody out there to let them know I could touch you when I want to. I can get you when I want to. I will come spray this whole block up for whatever we beefing with, for whatever it doesn't have anything to do with the people that's already out there. They might not have nothing to do with what we got issue with, but I'm going to show you what I can do to you. And I'm going to dare you to come back and try and retaliate against me. Because the first reaction to a lot of this senseless violence is I got to retaliate.
Right.
I'm going to find out who did it and I got to retaliate. I might not retaliate today. I might not retaliate tomorrow, but understand that this death is not going to go unheard. So either the police going to get you or we going to get you. Somebody going to get you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the repeat cycle of a criminal mind. Criminal mind says, this is what we got to do. Because first of all, you're not going to come up here disrespecting me, right? This my hood. This my area. This my territory. You just disrespected. Then on top of that, you murdered not one of mine, not two of mine, not three of mine, but you murdered a lot of mine. And then on top of that, now there's innocent people out here that you just scared half to death, right? So then we call upon the mayors, we call upon the council people, we call upon all these people, and they have nothing. The only thing they want to talk about is we need to pray. We need to get people mentorships. But when you're already embedded in that lifestyle,
right,
there's something more that you need to do outside of offering a prayer and a mentorship program. Because that's psychological. You know what I'm saying? That is something that is deep rooted within their own self that we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to address it. We cover everything in prayer. I told somebody the other day, because they told me, well, maybe, because racism is rooted in hatred, and hatred is a sin, right? I said, okay. And, you know, God will X, Y, Z. And I said, well, if God would have did that, wouldn't he have did that back in the Bible? When he was good in Rome and the good earth? When they hated everybody that wasn't Israel? They ain't like them? Like, that's in the word. So we always, when we apply things so jacked up because that's what we know. Right. That's what we've been taught. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't make any logical sense for what's actually going on. Okay. So, go ahead, Marcus.
You said a good point. That's what we know, and that's what we're taught. You also said another great point. Anyone from the outside is going to say, let's pray about it. Why? Because they're throwing in our face what we know and what we're taught. It's a form of conditioning. And also, if they really wanted to help, they don't really want to help. Why? Because violence has a currency to it. Violence is profitable, whether it's now, whether it's later. And the least person, the person that gets probably paid the least is probably the funeral director.
You're right about that.
And goes on to the next one. He's making money. He's making money, but not as much as the city, the government, the state is making off what? Incarceration. Why? If we expose ourselves to different things, we'll be so busy. One thing that I always say, Black people are so creative. And if you just need to give them a small bit of opportunity, they are going to blow the door open. So it's not profitable for others, for people to be exposed to new things. That's why they hide it. They hide it in verbiage. They hide it in programs that you're not going to read to get. They're going to put loopholes in there, extensions and deadlines that you might not meet. They might not make you privy of certain things. Why? Because we're so creative. If we're exposed to something new, then we're now taxing their pockets. Prisons ain't making money anymore. You know, they can't ask for state money. You know, they can't oppose new taxes and hide under that tax law. Well, some of this money is going to house what we perceived as criminals. Not saying that some of these criminals was criminally raised by the lack of funding for the community. They don't want to take responsibility for that. If you don't give a child a room to grow, prosper, to feel love, you have now helped that child become whatever that child is going to be. Any underage child without direction is going to find direction. And if you had a chance to change that direction and you didn't take that chance, I'm sorry, you are a part of the problem.
Right, absolutely. And I want to if I can piggyback off of something that both of you all just said about being conditioned. And what we have to understand is that this conditioning went on a long time ago. It's kind of like marinating meat over generations and generations. And we were taught violence through slavery. And so this has just been conditioned through generations of this is how you react. Even if we think about it, being reprimanded, during slavery time, you were reprimanded with violence. The police do the same thing. You're reprimanded with violence. In our homes in the Black community, truth be told, you're reprimanded with violence. We think that it is crazy that Caucasian people don't beat the crap out of their kids, that they send them to the corner. Why? Because we've been conditioned with the mindset to believe that everything needs to be handled through violence.
That's the truth. Anybody else?
I just wanted to add to that, basically what you're saying, she's saying like everything has to be handled through violence. That goes back to the status. The person who handles with violence is the person who is the boss or the head of the house or the employer or the police officer, the government official. The person who is handled is whomever. You're at the bottom of the totem pole. So it goes back to, it's still a form of status.
It is. Go ahead, Jamel.
I think that a lot of times we forget that everything has its place. Growing up, you know, my mother, my father, my older brothers and sisters knew when I got out of hand. Every once in a while, I need a little spanking, a little butt whipping, every once in a while. But they did it in moderation. It wasn't abusive, you know. And I think what happens is we overindulge in things to compensate for our lack of either communication skills, our lack of uh, understanding, our lack of wanting to be of feeling like we're not in control. And what happens is you overcompensate. So the violence that comes really isn't from a parent trying to protect, but it's about a parent either not understanding themselves, let alone their children, a parent not being patient enough to communicate. Because, my father is 90 years old. He wasn't no communicator. He wasn't no big communicator, but he was a good provider. He was a good father. He knew how to make sure that we were protected. And if we did happen to get out of hand, he knew when to step in. I think what happens is that in our society, we've lost the balance. We've lost the balance. There's no, and when everything is operating out of line and off kilter, you're always trying to compensate in some area. It's never a thing where you can just be easy enough to have things grow organically. Let things happen through maturation. Let things happen. It's like this society teaches you must always be in control. This is we grew up socialized in a domineering society. Because number one, white people who run society are domineering. Right. Everywhere they go, they conquer. Everywhere that they go, they colonialize. So that has been passed down because when we saw it as a form of power.
Right.
We saw it as a form of strength. And unfortunately, we took from them those lessons and applied it in our homes, applied it in our churches, applied it in our schools, applied it in so many different areas without balance. Unchecked, unbalanced. And when you don't have a balance, when you don't have a sense of when I'm going too far, or when I'm not going far enough, what happens is you raise or you train up children who begin to either feel neglected or feel abused. They never feel the complete cover of your love because you don't know you were never taught how to communicate love. You were never taught how to, you might love your kids, but you were never taught to communicate it. And if you don't communicate it, then they cannot even conceptualize what it is that you feel for them because they don't know. So, I don't want to talk too long because there are other people here. We're all talking, having a conversation. But I really believe that until we learn how to find the balance of communication, the balance of understanding, the balance of nurturing, and then if none of that works, I might have to spank you in your little bottom sometimes. When we put it all together, it makes a beautiful recipe and it raises beautiful people. But when one ingredient is measured out too much, you have that dissonance, you have that raging against, you have that because there's no balance.
Absolutely.
I think in all things there needs to be a balance. But what I also think that is sometimes people truly They're raised without a balance because they're raised with single mothers. They're not raised with fathers in the household. They're not raised with the structure and the balance that would possibly be needed. And they're not raised in a situation that would be viable for them to have a balance due to the fact that there already is an imbalance. You have a lot of people that were, were being raised and their mothers were hooked on drugs. So they were raised by a grandmother. And grandma took all the kids because that's what grandmothers do. Because grandma's going to step in and make sure all her grandkids is taken care of. Point blank, period. So when you're raised in that level of a dynamic, at times, as much of a balance that grandma might try to bring forth, you know what I'm saying, that auntie and uncles might try to bring forth, something is still going to be lacking. Why? Because that child still does not have the presence of the two people that brought them into this world. And oftentimes with that comes the confusion. Who am I? Who made me? How am I supposed to be? Where did I get this from? So what happens, when you're raised in a situation where you're impoverished and you're struggling and you can't even get a pair of sneakers, one of the first things that you want to do is, I need to go out here and learn how to get some money. How can I get money? So what do? You go outside, right? And you meet people, right? And you got all these people on the street and they're going to tell you how to get money. They're going to show you how to get money. Listen, this is what you need to do to get some money. I got this person. All you need to do, I'm going to spot you. I'm going to give you X amount, flip that, bring it back, and then pay him. And then when you get what you get, take that, double that, bring it back. And this is how you perpetuate the cycle of the imbalance, right? Now, then you have a lot of time, oftentimes, when these same said people then go out and they have their own kids, they raise their kids differently because they don't want their kids doing what they do. So they push education, they push school on their kid, they push, no, you don't need to be outside. They push the opposite of what the kid is actually seeing, right? In order for the kid to have a better chance. But they didn't have that option growing up because that wasn't what was going to help them, basically. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't, back in the day, truth be told, we had our own community programs, right? We didn't allow drugs in our community back in the day. Real talk. We didn't allow it, right? We didn't allow really and truly guns in our community unless we bought them and they were legal, right? For protection. Against who? It wasn't protection against our own. It was protection against those that were trying to come in and infiltrate our community. That's how we were brought up. And then somehow, some way, we flipped it onto each other. And it's not really somehow, because it was, anybody that has done any research into how our communities got damaged the way that they got damaged, it was all due to that good old J. Edgar Hoover. You know what I'm saying? And COINTELPRO. You know what I'm saying? And we got to stop acting like we're afraid to speak the truth about what really took place in our communities, because it's not our fault. And a lot of times people love to blame, well, you're killing each other. Pause. Where did this come from? Where did this stem from? Because all we're doing is reacting what we've seen and what we've been taught through the years, in the 50s, from the 60s, from the 70s. This is what we were taught. This is how we know. What did they do when they infiltrated the Black Panther Party to turn two leaders against each other? So now you got two leaders fighting against each other that were actually together. What happened in gangs? Because gangs didn't start off fighting against each other. That's not how it all began. But what happened? Think about it. Same thing happened with Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad. The government planted seeds in both their ears to turn them what? Against each other. Why? Because somebody needed to take out somebody. And it's the same thing that we see perpetuated over and over and over again. But we want to talk about, we need to do prayer and we need to do a mentorship program. I'm sick of that shit. And I'm just being real. I'm sick of it. I am sick of it, because that's not the answer. If that was the answer, I've been praying for 50 years. And where has that gotten you? Listen, where my cousin was murdered at, there's 2 churches on the street. 2. So what's up, church? And let's be real here, because the same people that's on that street have paid light bills for them damn churches. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. But don't nobody want to talk about that stuff. We want to deal with this surface stuff. We want to deal with all of this fluffiness, all this crap that sound good. No. What is the real issue? The real issue is that we haven't provided these kids a way out. The only thing we keep showing them is a way to be stuck. How? Even if you want to live, right? If I choose to live a life of crime, right? That's my choice, okay? Right? Because I got a choice. I choose crime. Now, show me how I could flip that investment.
Right.
Now, if I'm wise enough to live this life, I need to be wise enough to be smart enough with my money so that when the time comes, I need to get out, right? But where do I go? Listen, if you really want to enact change within your own community, start investing that same money that you're getting out of the community into the community. Open up stores. How we got all these poppy shops in the Black community? So y'all learn how to maximize off of our impoverished state because you're going to do $5 sandwiches, tell the truth, dollar sodas, tell the truth, dollar juices, tell the truth. You're going to let us post up outside, tell the truth. We're going to open up a chicken shack because we know they love chicken, so they're going to get the fried fish and the chicken, all this stuff. If we owned our own communities, if we would start investing into our own communities and buying up blocks, half them blocks is selling for cheap, but we don't want to do that type of stuff. What do we want to do? We want to perpetuate the same old nonsense and the same old story. We perpetuate the same story over and over and over again. Oh, it's Black on Black crime. Oh, the neighborhood is bad. Well, what are you willing? If there are 2 churches on that block, you mean to tell me y'all can't band together and buy a store? Because if you can't do that, then something's wrong with your investment. Truth be told, because let's think about it. When you go down to Atlanta, which one of y'all live in Atlanta? Trees, you in Atlanta, right? Did Creflo Dollar not buy up the whole damn near College Park? In that little area?
Sure.
I mean, when you look at it, Eddie Long, when he built up New Birth, you buy up all of that. What purpose is there of a church that does not understand investment? You there?
Let me say this, not to interrupt you, but let me say this. See, my thing about when we do as a community finally take those steps, we still have a crab in a bucket mentality that, you know, yes, I brought up everything, but are you really doing it to invest and better your own people? I mean, truth be told, I mean, I'm going to kind of go with a different angle with what you're saying, is because I don't think it's nobody's responsibility to change the Black community, but the Black community. We have
talking about.
Oh, right. Okay. I kind of got it twisted because you were saying, okay. So basically I feel as if the Black community, we have too much knowledge at our fingertips. And yes, I am one that say, okay, come on, y'all, we got to stop with the Black on Black crime because now we're just ignorant. Now we're just, because we already know we killing each other. We already know that they want to look at us and say that Black folks are ignorant and angry and this and that and the third. And we constantly, we all got TVs. We all got TVs. We all got cell phones. We all know, you know, the Black on Black crime. We all know that we need to stop this stuff. So for any Black man, some will go out. Who's trying to get you to go against who? There comes a point in time to where we all got to say, okay, we've been conditioned like this. Now we have to individually take responsibility to say it has to stop with me.
Right.
I'm not waiting on the church. I'm not waiting on my neighbor. I'm not waiting on my mama. I'm not waiting on my daddy. I'm not waiting on Trump. I'm not waiting on the police. I'm starting with me. I'm starting with me.
Trump ain't coming.
And so, I mean, I just look at it like that, because we can always sit up and say what the next person needs to do. And it starts with us.
Yes, but if you lack leadership, then you need leadership, because it's the clear indication that there's a lack of leadership, to where if a person comes in,
we've been waiting on leadership forever. So
but that's the damn problem, the fact that we've been waiting on leadership for forever. We've been waiting on leadership since Martin Luther King and Malcolm X died. We've been sitting around here waiting on leadership. But that's my point, because people get up and they talk like they're about to be their leader, and then you do nothing.
And so that's where I'm saying that sometimes, I mean, now we're at a point to where it's like, I mean, you ain't that damn ignorant to where you can't say, let me put the gun down.
No, they're not, because you know better.
Because you know better is what I'm saying.
You know better. You know better.
We got to stop. We will sit up and do Black Lives Matter movement. We will burn down restaurants and all this, but then turn around 2 months later, go pick up a gun and go kill somebody over a black. I'm just saying, it gets to a point to where it starts with us. Period. To me,
I agree. The truth of the matter is, it's going to start and end with us. And the problem is that we don't know how to fix the problem.
We know how. We just too busy wanting status, like the woman. I'm bad with names, you all, but we know how, because we got too much knowledge at our fingertips right now. Not know how to recondition ourselves. We just don't want to, because we deal with a culture who is crabs in a bucket. They got the crab in a bucket syndrome. And even if I do get something, I'm just trying to floss on you and stun on you kind of mentality that we have.
So let me ask you something. How we change that?
Oh, how do we change it? I can say that. We have to work.
Come on and tell me, Marcus.
We have to work together. I know we need statements about the church. The church can't do this by itself. We're gonna need the church.
It could, because if the church got members, then it's gonna take the community in which the church is in to band together. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking, when I say the church, I'm not talking about a building. I'm talking about a community of people. If we are the church, we are. I don't never refer to church as a building. Anyway.
No. You're right. You're right, and that's where I was heading. It's not only is it going to take the church, it's going to take the mosque, it's going to take
all of it.
Israelites, every black person. We're going to have to work.
I agree with that.
Even if we don't agree on our faiths, if we don't have a community, we ain't gonna have no faith. I'm sorry.
That's the truth.
If we don't have no community, we ain't gonna have no faith. It's cool. We don't have to agree, but
let me say, hold up, because this has got to be the devil. We ain't had this much issue with connectivity since we first started. And I'm not playing with Satan today, because I don't have time to play with Satan today. This is not the day to be messing up this live stream. We have not had an issue with this live stream since we first started, outside of other people's individual issues with their own devices. But this seems to be affecting the entire broadcast. So we're going to serve notice to the enemy right now that we're going to get this out. We're going to speak the truth. We are going to begin a healing process of our people, because our people are hurt. I know for a fact my family is hurt right now due to this murder that we just experienced just yesterday. And we're going to talk about this, because at the end of the day, our community needs this. Okay? And we're going to band together, okay, even in our respective areas, because see, none of us here actually live in the same areas. I'm in New Jersey, Nikita's in California, Marcus is in Maryland, Jamela's in New York, Teresa's in Atlanta. And I do this like this for a reason, because I always want a broad spectrum of people to be able to discuss things from across this good country. Because we ain't all got to be here, but we're not going to continue to have these issues on this broadcast, because it just started to tick me off, because I'm like, hold up, Marcus ain't never had a phone issue, not a day, and we done been on here for a whole month. Jamel didn't even have issues, so no. So we're not going to do this today. All right, go ahead, Marcus.
Like I was saying, we're all going to have to agree to agree.
Mm-hmm.
Our communities are exposed to violence. Our communities are exposed to exploitation. It's come on now, a $5 sandwich, chicken sandwich made by somebody outside our race. Come on now. And like you said, in my community right now, I know the 2 dry cleaners right across the street. I know they're cousins. I know they're cousins, and they're just pimping the system. When I tell you they're pimping the system, oh, you don't want to go to one because they're busy? All right, go to the other one. And they send their clothes to the same place to get dried. Not a black dry cleaner in sight. There's a Dunkin' Donuts and a 7-Eleven owned by somebody outside of our race. There's a gas station owned by somebody outside our race. There's a supermarket owned by somebody outside our race. And another thing, anytime someone brings knowledge into the community, Black folks, they need to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
They have to take advantage of it. Why? Because if we don't take advantage of it, somebody's like, that's a supply right there. I'm gonna create a demand. I got that CMOS. Come get it from me. I got it for you. It's good for you. They're gonna regurgitate all the information that someone of our same skin color has told us, and because we didn't apply it in our community out of maybe fear or out of rejection, they're gonna profit off us. If we take away what we have, if we take away what we have out of some of these stores, like they've been saying, these stores are gonna go bankrupt. Black folks, we love to say we don't got no money, but we have the classic, the retro Jordans. We got all the stuff that are $400. Where do you get that from? You could have started your own business. You can make your own shoes. You can be your own brand. You can be the change of independence. It's like the young lady said before, it's that crab mentality. It's that not only the crab mentality, but fear. Fear. Our communities is littered with fear. Either it's fear of violence or fear of leaving. And we don't get any classes in school to deal with that. What we will do is now they found that it's profitable to tell your little kid that, oh, they got an issue. Let me give them this pill and that will fix the problem. That's not going to fix the problem. Right. I am highly against that, because I do believe a group of strong Black men can change the generation of young Black men. I will say that till the day till I have no more breath in my body. That pill is killing our community as well. And lack of Black doctors, it's killing our community. How is someone else coming to tell us how our body works? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me at all. So
it seems like what you're saying is we need to really push education more. We need to push, a different way of living and thinking more, even, within our own families. The truth of the matter is that's one of the things that I push with, my nephews. No, college is important. School is important. Your education is important. You ain't going to get nothing in this world without it, especially not today.
And it goes back to what you said a few moments ago when you talked about leadership. I know, depending on how you look at it, it may sound, like it's not important, but it is the most important thing we have in life. Because if you think about it from a standpoint of a child has to follow someone in order for them to have a productive life, or they're going to have struggles trying to find the life that they are comfortable with. And when they do find it, if they don't grow up with leadership, it's because of the leadership of someone they are mimicking. So that's important for that reason. The other reason why leadership is important is because if you think about Harriet Tubman, and I always look at her as a leader, when it came to, freeing slaves, she had to be the one to be like, hey, come with me. People had to follow her. The biggest thing about leadership is people are there to follow. The people who follow their leaders are the people who don't have leadership skills and who don't want to be leaders and who are afraid to be leaders, because the leaders are the ones that people, when everything goes down, they're the one that everybody's pointing the finger at. You started this. And so when you start something like a revolution, people follow because people are afraid to do it on their own. And so you have leaders that not necessarily, we do need the leadership, but what's happening is the leaders that are in our community are not stepping up. They're not stepping up because they're not ready. They're not stepping up because they're afraid of gun violence. They're not stepping up because they feel like the people who should be following them won't follow them. And so many reasons why people who have leadership skills do not step up into place, or are afraid to step into place, or are not to where they're supposed to be. Like, for instance, I know someone who is very good, has people following everything. He's in prison, and he can only do so much in the prison. So as a leader, his leadership is stunted because of prior situations, because he did not have the appropriate leadership for himself. And so, it's situational, but leadership is very important. It's kind of like the only way. And the only way for us to be successful is to have seen success. And well, that's the only way, but there's different ways of being successful. So just because you see someone own a store doesn't mean you don't have to own a chain of stores because you only saw somebody own a store. But that's what I'm saying about leadership. What leadership does is encourages us to do what we need to do, encourages us to think about some things that will get us places. So, be out in the street, that whole gun violence is led by somebody who was in leadership, somebody who said, you know what? So it could have been, all types of gun violence vary, if it's something where you have, let's see, a drug lord who's like, Paco stole all my goods, he didn't give me my money, I need you to go get him. You follow the leader. The leader tell you what to do, you execute. That's just it. So whether they tell you to do it or they give you examples and you follow their lead, leadership is always important.
I honestly, go ahead, Jamel.
I was going to say, I agree that leadership is important. But what I do understand is that because we live in a country that is always in the midst of social engineering, this country is always in the midst of, they do psychological tests on our people to see the parameters of our people, to see how, if we poke them like this, how will they react? We are always under the duress of a psychological warfare. And that psychological warfare undermines the leadership, because the psychological warfare it is designed to destroy the influence of the leaders in the town that they're in. And what I'm coming to understand is, even when we have people who are in leadership, this government sets up things such as redlining and gerrymandering, and they set up these things where they build boundaries to keep us out. These people that come into our communities, these people are given loans quicker than we're given loans. These people that come from other countries are given loans quicker than we are given loans. And I realize now that all of this is a social engineering. It is a psychological warfare. And and when they spot a leader that is really doing his job, when they spot a leader that's really, look at Nipsey Hussle. They seen him, and you know what they did? They took him out. This man was establishing STEM programs in his community. This man he brought up the whole mall area, was employing his community. They couldn't have that, but he was going to take the STEM that he did for his community, he was going to extend it nationwide. They couldn't have that. So what did they do? They killed him. Look and see. And this isn't just something that just happens sometimes. They do it with every leader. And this has been going on since the days of Jesus. They killed Jesus. They realized he was too powerful. They realized that he had too much sway in the community. They realized that no, this man's going around healing people, and we have to stop that. And you know what? They take and they pit people against each other. Because it wasn't the so-called sinner that killed Jesus. It was the church that killed Jesus of that day. And then when we see today, how did they do it in Martin Luther King's time and in Malcolm X's time? They hired black men to pit them against the leaders of the day. It's always a psychological warfare that we're under. It's always that warfare that says, as long as we keep them at their throats, at each other's throats, they'll never notice that we're the puppets. We're the puppet masters pulling the strings. There's something else to be said. There's also a chemical warfare that goes on in our communities that nobody ever speaks about. When they go and they're spraying manganese over our communities, and manganese, especially in the summer months, you know what that does? It drives us to violent behavior. It drives us to do things that we shouldn't. There is a chemical warfare that is really aimed and targeted at us. There's a financial warfare. They make sure they do whatever they can to keep us out of certain areas of business. They keep whatever. How long did it take for Kanye to finally get into the fashion industry? And then by the time he got there, he's half
crazy.
So now, what they did, they pick and choose who to put in the position. Look and see. You have one of the world's greatest neurosurgeons in Ben Carson, and you pick him to rule over
Hudhausen, which makes absolutely no sense.
No sense.
But he didn't care. He was just glad that he was chosen. Right. That white man chose me. I'm so glad. I'm just so glad, and I'm gonna do what I can to please him. And here we are. At what point do we recognize that every position that we're offered is not a position that we should take? Every time we're offered, just because you can give me something doesn't mean that it's necessarily meant for me for my good. You're giving it to me, but what is your intention? What is your purpose in giving it to me? What are you trying to keep me from getting? Where are you trying to keep me from going? What goal are you trying to keep me from attaining? And when I see this, I go, if people really understood just how much the black man and the black woman are under attack every single day, and not from one race, from every single race on the planet. It goes so deep. It goes so deep. It goes so deep that they made sure to hide us in scripture. It goes so deep that they made sure to whitewash our history. It goes so deep that even in Egypt, when they went into Egypt and they saw the pyramids and they saw the Sphinx, they broke the noses off the Sphinxes because the noses on the Sphinx look like the black man's nose.
Black man's nose, that's right. That's what I'm talking about. Go ahead, Jamel.
This thing is so big and so deep. The question that I have is not even a question. I think we really need to find out how to psychologically unravel ourselves from all of this programming. Because from the cradle until the grave, we are being programmed. The minute you come out of your mother's womb, you are being programmed. That's why they got this television in our houses to continue to program us. That's why they have us hooked up to the internet like they do today, controlling the flow of information so that they can make sure that they control us. And I mean, like, this is, let me tell you, these guns didn't get to this community by our hands.
No, we don't. New
York isn't seeing this escalation of gun violence just because it's happened by osmosis. This happened because y'all let these guns in here.
Sure do.
You set up a whole situation. You played chess while we were playing checkers. You set up a situation to where we don't know what's wrong with them. No, you put the guns there. Not only did you put the guns there, you sprayed the place with the manganese. Not only did you spray the place, but you psychologically, at every time the news comes on, you paint a picture of us being thugs and being hitmen and killers. In our rap music, even in our music industry, you go in, no, you can't sign this rap contract doing all this conscious music. We need you to do something that's a little more urban. That's what they'll call it now. We can be programmed. There must be a breaking of the programming. Until the programming is broken, this cycle will always repeat because they have us. They don't have us by our throats. They have us by our minds.
That's right.
It's funny. You mentioned how do we get away from them destroying our leaders and all that stuff. There's a saying that you never let your left hand know what the right hand is doing. And that's the problem with us as a people. We're so open to allow everybody in. We're so peaceful. Like we're so accepting, yes. And because of that, we let them know what we're doing. So when we're like, oh, we're going to teach our kids how to become engineers without having to go to schools, their schools, they come in or they want to take funding away or they want to do stuff like this. We let them know too much. And that is why they are able to dismantle us before we can even shake the earth. That's why they do it. That's why it's so easy for them, because we let them know what we're doing.
Right, because when we didn't let them know, that's when we built up our own communities. That's when we policed our own communities. That's when we took care of our own communities. That's when we had our own healthcare facilities in our own communities. That's when we had our own community neighborhood watches within our own communities, within our own cells. But the minute they saw that we started thriving is the minute all hell broke loose in our community.
Yep. Just like with the freed slaves, if that was not, until that was no longer a secret, slaves were being freed.
Right. A year later. And you know, not to cut you up, Jamel, what pissed me off about this past Juneteenth was the fact that people joked about the fact that we didn't, there wasn't social media back then, so therefore we didn't find out about it until here. That was not the reason why we didn't find out about it until later. They still wanted that free labor. Like, study your history. Understand what took place. And that's where we always got the saying from, if you want to withhold anything from Black people, put it in a book. And we joke about that so much. We joke about that, but the truth of the matter is that it was written that we were free and we didn't know it. Why? Because most of us couldn't even read. Right. And we didn't even know how to go out there and seek out the information, which is what's happening today, even in our communities. We're not going out and seeking out information. There are so many different programs, so many different things that we could actually do, even for our own selves. Like, I know for myself, I'm working on something to improve the community. Why? Because it's something that's deep embedded in my heart to do it. And I'm saying, okay, I need help. I need to know how to go after and how to get what I need, because what's not going to keep happening, we're not going to keep leaving our communities and going and investing in others. That makes absolutely no sense. You know what I'm saying? Because that's why they can psychologically program us, because we leave and we stay gone.
And if I can add this really quickly, my thoughts are kind of, because y'all saying so much good stuff, and my thoughts is, I want to say this. It's not that I don't believe that we should have leaders. I just believe in raising leaders. And what happens in the Black community, since we always need status and we need to feel powerful, we want to be the leaders, but we don't want to raise leaders, because we want to be the go-to. We want to be the one that's looked up to. We want to be the one that's on a pedestal. And so what I believe in is that, first, I forgot the question and how you asked it, but we have to first acknowledge that we have a problem within the Black community. And a lot of times we don't want to acknowledge that we are the problem. We know that we've been conditioned. We know that they spread stuff in the air. We know that they doing this, that, and the third. But when do we know that it's our time to try and change what they've been doing to us? Because what that's going to do is constantly condition our mindset that it's the white man, the people, or this, it's their fault. Okay, we got all of that underlined and highlighted. We know that. But we have to now say, but it's our fault for allowing it to happen to us for so long. It kind of reminds me of a woman that's in an abusive relationship. Okay, yes, we know that your man is abusive. Yes, we know that he got these issues. But when are you going to take responsibility to say enough is enough? And so that's just the kind of way that I look at it. It's like we got to get to a point to where we acknowledge, okay, by this point in 2020, it's us. At this point, yes, we have been conditioned. But at this point, we have to recondition ourselves. And that start with the acknowledging, you know, hey, I may be the problem. I may need to get it together. I'm the one need to put down the gun. I'm the one that needs to take some classes and pick up a book and get myself educated and do this, that, and the third, and be a better father and be it, you know, so take responsibility now for who you are as an individual. And so, yes, we need leaders, but we need to also raise leaders as well.
But I think one of the biggest issues is the fact that I agree with everything you say. I do. The problem is that when you have someone or when you have an entity, because that's basically what this government programming, this entity has us from the cradle to the grave. The minute we come out our mother's wombs, this thing is implemented. This psychological warfare is implemented as children.
Right.
I'm talking about it runs so deep. It runs so deep. And it's been happening not for hundreds of years, but it's been happening for thousands of years.
Right.
And
to that point, because I know where you're going with it, but let me say this really quick to that. And I'm gonna just kind of testify of my conditioning as a child. And this is not to throw anybody under the bus if I got family members watching, but I was conditioned to be violent. I was conditioned to be a gangbanger. I'm talking about from the cradle. I grew up with the mentality that somebody say something sideways, you try to knock their teeth down their throat. I was conditioned that if you want to make money, you sell dope. You know, I was conditioned that we gang bang, you know, and if you're not from my side, you the enemy. So I was conditioned on so many levels. I was conditioned that when your child get out of line, you smack them in their mouth and until you see blood. You know, I was conditioned in so many ways that a lot of us probably can identify with because we all Black, you know. But I am nothing like. People would be like, how did you do a complete turnaround from the way that you were raised? Why? Because I believe in the power that we can change even after being conditioned for years and years and years. We can change that. And so the only issue that I have with that angle or that approach of we've been conditioned so long is it gives no hope to the fact that you can really change how you've been conditioned.
I understand. And I definitely don't want to leave us with no hope, because without hope, then it's a lost cause. What I will say is this, that, you know, until we acknowledge, yes, you made it out. I made it out. But we are the exceptions to the rule. And that's what people don't realize. We are the exceptions to the rule. You know, even sacred text will let you know that many are called, few are chosen. You know, that's you know, because one of the greatest weapons, and I think I spoke about this on a few shows, and one of the greatest weapons that is used against us, that for some reason we can't seem to break, is our addiction to conveniences and comforts. That is how they hold us back. they make everything so convenient and so comfortable that they make it to the place where you become addicted to it and you feel like I can't live without it. So if you do this and we take this from you, listen, we will go. Can you imagine if they said, "Oh, y'all acting like that"? Then guess what? No more TV. This country will go crazy.
Right.
Could you imagine if they said, "Oh, so y'all want to do this? Well, this is what we're gonna. Y'all want to protest? This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna make sure that you have no more access to you have no more access to our grocery stores because we know you don't know how to garden. We know you don't know how to tend to no garden. We know you don't know how to have no farms. You don't even know who the black farmers are in your country. See, and that's why I said it's the flow of information. Even when you ever been in a position where you knew what to do, but you just didn't have it wasn't that you didn't have the power, you didn't have the leverage. And what we're missing, we have the power, but we lack the leverage. And the leverage that we lack comes through comforts and conveniences. You can't tell these people, listen, no more Jordans for you. This country will go crazy. These young people go crazy. We have to detach ourselves. And this is where the hope is. The hope comes in detachment. When you learn how to detach yourself from those things that you think you can't live without, that's when you have won the game. You know, I'll say it like this. I'm a preacher, so I'm going to say it just like this. Jesus said it this way.
How do you say it, sir?
He said, if you will let go of what you have, I'll give you double. But the problem is we have not learned how to let go. We have not learned how to detach. And the double doesn't come from getting more stuff. The double comes from you learning how to do it yourself and get it yourself and not have it handed to you.
Exactly.
Learning how to go out and build, learning how to go out and learn a trade, learning how to go out and learn how to farm, learning how to go out, learn how to shoot, learn how to shoot a gun. Go out there and learn. Do it for yourself. Because when you do it for yourself, when you detach from this machine, from this psychological warfare, when you detach from it, what happens is you begin to realize just how much you really can do.
Right.
You begin to realize just how far you really can go. But you know what happens? When you do that, that's when you have to be on high alert. Sometimes our people, when we get to those points where we do detach and we take our power back, you know what happens? It sets off an alert to others. It sets off an alert to this government, and you become a hunted man.
Yes,
you become a hunted woman. They will hunt you down, and they will try to kill you. It is by God's grace that Louis Farrakhan is still here. It is by God's grace that we still have such a man of that stature and that leadership. But he had to do it by planning. He knew there were certain places I couldn't go, certain times I couldn't speak, certain times I couldn't say what I wanted to say, because I had to be just as strategic as they were.
Right.
And outsmart them.
And last thing, it really was. And last thing I'll say is one of my favorite people was, what's his name? He was a comedian. He was an old school comedian. He stopped doing comedy. He became an activist. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
I don't know.
He died recently. Probably. Who?
I don't know how far back you going.
No, he died last year.
I don't know who he is though.
Okay, I'll say it like this. One thing about him.
Why don't you Google his name? What was his
okay,
name?
I will do that.
What was his name?
Oh man, y'all know who I'm talking about.
That's what I was going to say, Trees. I'm like, I only know Richard Pryor.
Not Richard Pryor. He ran for president. And they mistakenly said that he had won.
I don't even remember all that.
I'm gonna tell y'all right now.
We're going back
I'll
far.
tell y'all right now.
John Witherspoon.
And when
Somebody said John Witherspoon. Witherspoon? No.
No, not John Witherspoon.
No.
Oh man.
Blank.
See, you done came against the internet. Now you got to use it. I'm joking.
I'm using it right now.
Oh
man.
bad for me. I don't know this guy.
I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Somebody Google it. Listen.
I'm too young.
Nah, you're not too young. You're not too young. Because he just died. And when I say his name, y'all gonna go, oh yeah, I know. This guy, he was very influential.
I can't wait.
He was very influential to Michael Jackson.
That ran for president?
He ran for president and they mistakenly said he won. Dick Gregory.
I don't know no damn Dick Gregory.
Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory. Listen.
I don't know Dick.
If y'all don't know about those, listen, Dick Gregory was a national treasure.
He was.
This man, they wanted to kill this man. They wanted to kill him.
Dick Gregory.
And you know what?
Who the heck is Dick Gregory?
Look up Dick Gregory. When you see his face, you're going to say, oh, okay.
Okay, because I might not know the name. I might know the face.
You know the face.
Right. But Dick Gregory, they wanted to kill that man because he knew too much. He knew too much. He knew so much, but he was so strategic in the way he moved. And not only was he strategic in the way he moved, but he also understood that.
Oh, Dick Gregory. Yes. I love him. Shut up, Marcus.
Yeah,
I know Dick. I know him. Okay.
But he spoke to all of this in the 50s, the 60s. That's why he stopped being a comedian, because he began to speak on these issues. He's 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s until his death. And they wanted this man dead, but they couldn't even kill him. They couldn't even get close enough to kill him because he was always one step ahead. Same with Dr. Sadie. They finally caught up with Dr. Sadie, and they finally got him. How does the world's greatest healer die of pneumonia? Get out of here. It's because these people, they set themselves and detach themselves from a system. When we learn how to detach ourselves from this system and really begin to grow in the divinity that we are, grow in the divinity that we are, and then also grow in the humanity that you are as well. People will automatically be attracted to you. They will automatically be drawn to you. And systems cannot stop that. Systems cannot stop that. Yes.
But let me say this really quick on that. I absolutely agree. But I think that also in that we have to learn how to change our conversation to the degree, okay, because what I hear and what I used to hear as a young Black woman, when I heard people talk the way that you're talking, and it's so true, and it's information that we need to know, that they will try to kill you, they will try to cut you down, they will kill you. We need to know those things, but what we have to understand as a race is that when we talk like that, we set in fear. So even if I did want to detach, even if I did want to recondition, you didn't scare me half to death to even do it.
Yeah, look, yeah, but you know,
that's their purpose.
Like, never mind, y'all can have all that. I ain't even gonna go out there. Nah, but I mean, the truth of the matter is we shouldn't be scared because it's used to inform, because it's the truth, right? So it's used to inform, but we get scared because that's our life, right? So like, the truth of the matter is, any great leader, when you go against this system, it's just real. They're going to come after you. That is the history of us. That is the reason why Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton became so watered down, right? Now look at who we have right now, a person that truly is like a rising leader, Shaun King. They had a whole private Facebook group to murder him that got debunked, that were retired and current law enforcement. So we have to and it's something that even Shaun King said, we know that this happens. I get death threats all the time. I know this, but that's not going to make me shut up. I'm going to still be out here on these front lines, and I'm going to still be fighting for truth. I'm still going to fight for justice. I'm still going to fight for all of, because this is what's right. This is what we need to do. You know what I'm saying? So some of us are not cut out for that, and we need to know that if that's not your lane, don't step up to it.
Right.
Because you can't be scared to lose your life to fight for the life of others. Right. And that's one of the things that a lot of our influential leaders have been able to grasp. I can't be afraid to lose my life. Martin Luther King said it, Malcolm X said it, Marcus Garvey, all of our good influential leaders have said this statement. Why? Because they basically said, listen, I can lay down my life for yours if it means that you got it, if it means that you're going to get something better than what I received. So, you know, but that might not be my lane. You know what I'm saying? I might not be that person. But what I can do is help the person that it is for, right? I could be like Angela Davis. I'm not having an afro, but I'm just saying. But I could, you know what I'm saying? You could be that. I could be like let's be real. Look at Asada Shakur. They ran her all the way to Cuba, and then threatened Cuba to send her back. And it was Fidel Castro and his brother that basically gave them 2 middle fingers, both of them. And what did they try and convince Cuba? Well, if you send her, we'll give you the money that you need. Cuba said, well, I've been surviving without this for all these years. I don't need your help.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So we have to understand the system, truthfully, that has been in place in order to hold us back and keep us fearful, just like you said. That's why, listen here, that's not my lane. Okay. I do not necessarily want to deal with government phone taps. I do not necessarily want to deal with the folk camping outside your house, all the other extra stuff. However, I will support and help whoever that lane is for.
But not even in, I'm not only even speaking in that lane. I think that we need to redirect our delivery because in all honesty, even when you're trying to become a doctor or a lawyer or anything, unfortunately, you know, in this life, and I'm sure we've all experienced it to some degree, that, oh, the white man is going to be on your neck and he ain't going to open up the door for you. And, you know, and so I just think that it's our delivery. And I think that, of course, we got to educate our children and we got to educate each other that this is factual. You know, this is the truth. This is our reality. But I was always raised, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so I just believe that our delivery has been a fear tactic, and we don't even realize how I'm afraid to even walk through the door. I remember being so intimidated by Caucasian people because of the delivery and the way that I was taught that white people are. And it's not until I started to study myself and put myself in places to where I was like, why the hell am I intimidated by you? You ain't no better than me. But I was because I was intimidated because of the way we talk amongst our culture about the white man and all this stuff. We make each other scared and scared to become great and successful because the white man gonna have his knee on your neck. Nah, that nigga, he gonna take his knee off my neck. How about that?
See, I think that, like, I know I can only speak for myself. I wasn't raised with that level of a mentality, right? I wasn't raised like that, but I was raised to be conscious enough to understand that there is a potential of limitations due to how the structure is set up. Nakia, if you're gonna go into corporate America as a Black woman, understand this structure. Understand there's going to be a glass ceiling. And the only way how you're going to break through that glass ceiling is you're going to have to be extraordinary to break it. You are going to have to outperform. You are going to have to dress the part. You are going to have to use all of those multi-syllable words in order for them to even acknowledge the fact that you are in the room, right?
Right.
So you need to be smarter than, you need to be better than. And I literally pushed myself and forced myself and pushed myself, like, to the point where it almost drove me crazy, right? Because I was raised like that. You got to do this. So for me, it was a driving factor of, okay, if this is where I want to be, then I need to be prepared for what I'm going to be up against, right? Not necessarily fear, but it was to say, listen here, if this is what you want to do, this is what you're going to need to, this is how you're going to need to be. And I'm going to prepare you for where you're going, because you're not going to get this in college. You're not going to get this in high school. They're not going to teach you this. So I got to show you this. And I literally watched my mother climb her way up that corporate ladder to the point where her voice had to be respected, because she is who she is and because she's knowledgeable. So I learned how to allow and have my voice to be respected. Now, the flip side of that crap is when you're not in the actual corporate structure field, but when you are a political activist. And that's what Jamel talking about. When you're a political activist, that is a totally different realm. And the truth of the matter is, you got to be real enough to know that that system you coming up against is that same system that's going to try and snuff you up out of here.
Right.
Because it's a different struggle, and it's a different playing field. We talking two different fields.
Right.
That activist field, to be like a Dick Gregory, to be like a Dr. Sebi, to be like a Malcolm X, to be like a Martin Luther King, to be like them, you have to welcome, to be like a Minister Louis Farrakhan, you have to welcome that level of danger into your life. And then you have to then learn from the mistakes of others, right? How not to allow that to cause you to be assassinated,
right,
or straight up murdered. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where, you know, because Farrakhan, if you ever, I mean, we've all listened to him. He does not necessarily speak directly about how he's been threatened, but you know it based on how they shut him down at every chance he gets. And then what does he do? All right, well, we're going to do this on NOI.org, or we're going to go here. Somebody's going to, like his 4th of July address, which was awesome. You know what I'm saying? But we learn how to maneuver now in 2020 compared to back in the 50s and the 60s, where, you know, I mean, we were being assassinated. Now we learn how to maneuver within the system so that, no, you're not going to get me, because the assassination never necessarily happened from someone directly connected to the system. They always got it to be someone that was either within or some type of close direct relation to what you had going on. We got smarter, which I believe is good, because now in 2020 you ain't getting us the same way. So I get it with the delivery of the message, and I think that's part of the reason why, you know, when you look at it, Farrakhan and them don't necessarily use that level of a delivery, but you understand it when they speak it.
Right. And I'm my bad. See, I was my whole thought process is, you know, the foundation of the topic, the type of people who still out there gun popping and stuff like that. And so I thought that we were still kind of there. So
we still there.
Okay, I kind of thought we were there talking about how to structure those type of mindsets, you know, that those type of people who are still out there and being ignorant. And I think that a lot of times that, yeah, I prefer to sell dope or go pick up a gun or be in a gang or whatever, is because I'm afraid to even try and become who I can be to a professional level or to better myself, is because I'm afraid the white man is not going to open the door. So I was kind of keeping it on a lower level, you know, as to what we started off with. But yeah.
Now let me say that, because that is true, and that's a real statement, because that is what's echoed, right? Any of us that know anybody that lives in either, you know, gang life, drug life, whatever, anybody that live in that lifestyle, one of the things that is echoed is, how can I start over? I have this, I have that, I have this, I have that, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that I always say, if you wasn't scared of them streets, the hell you scared of this system for? Go ahead, Marcus, because you got that good church one finger up, and I'm about to get you with that finger. You see here with that church finger. That he had.
I try to be respectful. I try to be respectful. So one of those things, if you're trying to change your life, I've heard this several times on a couple podcasts. We as Black people need to recirculate our money within our community. That's going to create a window for us to be able to provoke change. What do you mean? Invest in the Black businesses. Encourage Black healers to come to the community. We need to restore our families. That's where it starts. I've come to learn, working in the mental health field, that one thing that we think we need one Black leader. No, we need more than one Black leader. That way, that one leader is not always the target. And I've been saying this for the past month. I've been on the podcast. Wherever you are, that is your front line. You don't have to be an activist, but if you're in corporate America, we need to protect you. If you're not in your mental health, we need to protect you. If you're in the dentistry field, we need to protect you. If you're in the healing business, we definitely need to protect you. If you're a doctor that's going to debunk some of these viruses and stuff, we got to protect you. If you're a parent, we have to protect you. We have to protect everything that concerns us. And the moment we allow things not to concern us is the moment that we become our own enemies. So no matter where you are, you're on the front line. You don't have to be the political activist, but you're going to make a change in the mental health field. You're going to make a change in the hospitality field. You're going to make a change in corporate America. You're going to make a change on the police force, and you're going to be a target. It might not look like you're a target. You're a target. So we as a people have to protect one another. Your front line is where you are. Wherever you are is where your battle is, and we have to protect you. Even if that thing doesn't pertain to us, we have to protect you. Why? Because once we protect ourselves, then we know how to rehabilitate ourselves. It's one thing that I teach is if a kid displays a bad behavior, they have to know the opposite behavior. It is no way that they can know one thing but not know the other. That means they're off balance. If they're off balance, then who is teaching this young kid? Who is teaching? There's a deficiency in your teaching, and now I can make you responsible for your neglect in teaching. It's common sense. We have to be able to take it like the young lady said. We have to be able to know how to communicate. Look, if my child is misbehaving, he must know the opposite behavior. So if you know how to go out and gangbang, that means you know business, you know protection.
You should.
You know finances, you know how to create product, you know how to distribute product. Now we just got to make you legal. That's it.
Boom.
It's got to make you legal. You've been doing it all along with no education. I'm sorry. You might have learned it the wrong way, but you're resourceful. And that's the biggest thing about Black people. They're so resourceful. They sometimes tend to stumble on something that's already embedded in them. That's why it's easier to cause Black people to turn against Black people, because then they lose their vision. And when Black people lose their vision in their direction,
there it is.
There it is. There it is.
Absolutely.
I
If we
think
can just
go ahead, Jamal.
I'm sorry. If we can just turn these shooters in the street. Listen, if you want to shoot, we have an army. You know that, and I'm not talking about the United States Army. You know, I feel like we have an army. You know, we start a business where you have to have trustees, because the trustees can be armed to help you. You know, if you feel like you want to use a gun so bad, then I'm going to show you how to use it, and then I'm going to show you who to use it against. You use the gun to protect. You don't use the gun to hurt. You use the gun to make sure. Like, one thing that always really bothered me, and it bothers me to this day, is how you can watch George Floyd be killed. You can watch Trayvon Martin be killed. And you talk all this stuff in the neighborhood about how you going to shoot this one and shoot that one. And you got these, and I'm not saying that people should go out and kill them, but you got these people out here just doing all of this, and you not regulating. You ain't checking stuff. You ain't stopping that. This is where your gangsters should show up. Your gangsters should show up to protect your neighborhood, protect our children, protect our mothers, protect our sisters and brothers. This is where your gangster really should rise up. You know? And I'm like, if we can just teach them where to point their guns. Not that you have to, but when time comes, you know what to do. Because at some point in time, it'll be needed. Because there's always a criminal element. And that criminal element is not always us. Because the biggest gangs are these dudes up there in the banking systems, these dudes up there in the prison systems, these dudes who control these things. Those are the real gangsters.
Right.
These presidents that meet with the president is a gangster.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a gangster. He's a gangster. He's a rapist. He's a pedophile, and he's in office.
Right.
So my thing is, we have to teach redirection, redirect your anger,
Right.
create, redirect your frustration and create, redirect your recklessness and create. Find things to do. Start a security company.
Right.
In fact, why don't you start your own private security
Right.
to where the police won't even be needed because they'll hire your company because they're defunding police. There's so many, but there has to be someone who's willing to speak truth to power because they don't know they really don't know the potential that's locked up in them.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, they don't know until someone says, and I think that's what happened with me. I used to love fighting was my life. I used to love to fight. I love to see blood. Every time it would get me excited.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, Minister Don Saxby grabbed me. He's a boxing trainer to this day, a very successful one. He said, "Let me teach you to box. Let me show you how to do this. Let me show you where you put this at. Let me show you. You don't have to be out here in the streets fighting." And I was a church boy. I was in Sunday service playing the organ, playing the keys, playing the drums. But during the week, I'm out there fighting because I like to fight. So if you like to, let me teach you how to box. Let me teach you MMA, and not only MMA, but you know what? What you do with this? Go into the community and teach the women how to defend themselves. Go into the community and teach the fathers that, yo, let me work with your son. I know it seems like your son's out of control. You need a little help. Let me help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes our pride gets in our way. Sometimes we want to be the only voice in our kids' lives, and it gets in the way. You need help. A village. It still is the village that raised the child, that has successful children.
Right.
Let me say this, y'all. We done went way over this good time, which is good. We always do, but this was a good this was a good topic, and we covered so much as it relates to our own communities and what's going on in our communities as a whole, including the gun violence. And I think that we've actually, I literally have been writing down in the comments a lot of the things that we said through the course. Well, things that y'all said, I didn't remember to write down none of the things I said because whatever, as you're saying that you can't write it. But I think that was very powerful what you just said, Jamel, as far as redirection and create.
Yes.
Because sometimes you do need to know how to reshape a person and change that negative, Marcus, like what you were talking about, into a positive. If there is a negative action, they know that there should be a positive one. So sometimes you just have to point it out and show the way of it. I also did, as you were talking about, Jamel, social engineering, I also, wrote that out. I actually Googled the definition of it, the full definition of it, in order to provide it to the people, because I do believe that it is important that we understand that there is social engineering. Whether we allow it to cripple us, whether we allow it to hinder us, whether we allow it to continue to stop us, that's on us. But it is out there, and we do have the power in order to change it. I believe, Marcus, you were the one that said we need to circulate our money within our own communities, and we need to start that. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to constantly spending without, we need to spend within and support our own. Jersey has their own Black-owned New Jersey. I don't know if New York has a Black-owned New York, or if California got a Black-owned Cali, or if Maryland got a Black-owned Maryland, or if Atlanta got a Black-owned Atlanta. But y'all might need to create the group, start the change, be the one. Somebody literally just woke up one day and they literally created Black-owned New Jersey, and I mean there are like hundreds of thousands of us in there where we are literally supporting Black-owned businesses, and everybody's getting the support. And I think that that's important, that we discuss that. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, there's a Black-owned restaurant literally right the next town over. I never even knew it was there. I said, but when they were talking about it, I was on the cleanse, but I was like, I'm going to go there now because I'm not on this cleanse no more. And I'm going to patronize this good Black-owned restaurant, but you learn so much when you create a community in order to engage people. I mean, I ordered, these little earrings and stuff. I got some wax melts, some candles, you know what I'm saying? When we begin to support our own and build up our own and encourage our own. And that literally is something that, I have been doing, for the simple fact that I'm like, you know what, change got to start. I can't keep talking about change, and change ain't starting within me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to keep talking about stuff that I'm not doing. You know what I'm saying? So, I was like, I done bought t-shirts that I didn't need really, but hey, you can never have too many t-shirts, right? I'm just saying, you can never have too many bags, whatever. Listen, I'm about to go get a whole nother tattoo. Black-owned man, come on here. It's just, this is what we do. We support our own with what our own are doing. We are some very creative people. Someone did say, I don't remember, and I guess I should write down names, for the next time. It says someone said, if we learn how to let go and go get it for ourselves. Oh, that was you, Jamel. God will give us double. That's what you said. Boom. And then this one was really good too. We have the power, but we lack the leverage. And we lack the leverage due to our own comfort and conveniences. And I mean, I literally just wrote a whole bunch of things down that everybody was saying, because I didn't want us to forget. And, Nikita, I really do like what you said about changing how we say things. You know what I'm saying? Because if we constantly do speak in a negative connotation, it always will bring about a I can't attitude, or I don't want to attitude. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to bringing about the attitude, you know what, I think I can do this. You know what I'm saying? And it won't bring about fear, but it'll if we change how we say things, it'll begin to bring about hope that there is a future, that there is a tomorrow. Because oftentimes when you're living in our communities, when you're living in an impoverished state, you lose the hope for tomorrow. So the only thing you're focused on is today. I can't think about tomorrow because I don't know, tomorrow's not promised. How many times have any of us heard that? Tomorrow's not promised. I just got to live for today. And living for today and not living for the future is a big problem, because you can't get anywhere without living for the future. And I believe that one of the things that we have to begin to establish, and like you said, Nikita, you said we need to raise leaders. That starts from childhood. We have to raise our young boys. We have to raise our young girls up in such a way that they know that they can be anything and that they can do anything as long as they put their heart and mind and soul to it. You know what I'm saying? And even in the instance of where you make mistakes, there's an opportunity for you to change. And I believe that will then, once we reinstill hope into our communities, that's when the gun violence within our communities will begin to cease. And it's because people will begin to see that there's another way. But if you're constantly living in a way of turmoil, confusion, isolation, because when we're within our communities, we're isolated. You know what I'm saying? Because if we go outside our communities, we're harassed. So they want us in our communities, right? So we need to stay within our community. And like you said, Nikita, have that crabs in the barrel mentality. And then, like you said, Tree, status. Everybody wants status. Everybody wants to be known for something. I want to be known for this. I want to, when you see a little kid, what do you want to be? I want to be known as this person. Why do you want to be known as that? How do we begin to shape that to where that that the status that they're looking for is not something that just exudes power, but something that exudes integrity, something that exudes morality, something that truly will help them build character. We have to help people to build character. And I think that it's going to start with sound leaders, right? And everybody playing their part in that. You know what I'm saying? There are no, Marcus, you got that finger up.
Of course.
See, I had to, because I had to look real hard and see if that finger, I saw something like peek. It was like, it looked like this. And I was like, wait a minute, something is peeking in the corner. Go ahead, Marcus.
I know you're on your closing.
Yeah, that's fine. Y'all like to interrupt me during my good closing anyway. I'm used to this crap by now. Okay. Okay. And I don't want nobody texting me talking about why you let him interrupt you during the closing. Because this is what we do. We family, so it's all right. You know, black preachers is known for that. You know, I'm closing about 50,000 times, but that's all right because once you say what you're closing 30 seconds, I'm like, goodbye.
Yes, ma'am. Just one thing to add to all the great stuff that was added tonight. I do believe as a Black community, we also need to be open to rehabilitation and not keep ostracizing our own, because then we are now doing what others are doing to us. You know, someone made some mistakes and, all right, cool. We got to be able to welcome them back in. It's tough. It's hard. Even if we have to welcome them back in, but only from this region. You can go over this region and go live your life. We have to be able to be open to rehabilitating our own. And that's it. I won't interrupt you. No more fingers.
Anybody else got a finger? Go ahead, Nikita.
Really quickly. I think it's the scripture, giants are grasshoppers, when the Bible talks about how they saw themselves grasshoppers.
When he was opening his eyes.
Right, absolutely. And just making sure that we really teach our children and our young adults and just each other that we're giants. We're not grasshoppers. Stop seeing yourself as a grasshopper when you are a giant.
Oh, wait, you talking about when they went to go scope out the land?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's a different scripture. Yeah.
And it kind of intertwines with what I'm saying is because if I'm going to scope out the land of opportunity or whatever it is, I don't want to have to see myself as a grasshopper because this is what's been instilled in me. I want to be able to see myself as a giant when I'm going to scope out my opportunities in my career and so raising people that see themselves as giants instead of grasshoppers, because we have truly been seeing ourselves as grasshoppers instead of giants in the Black community.
I agree. Instead of looking at what's to come, the opportunity as something that's so far-fetched that you can't obtain it because you're a grasshopper.
Right. Absolutely.
Jamel?
Hey, I just think I just think that at the end of the day, if we learn no fear, if we learn to conquer those things that we're afraid of, if we learn how to be courageous in spite of fear, then we will open up and unlock a door where all our dreams lie. And unfortunately, fear mongering is the thing of the day. Our president constantly fear mongers.
Yes.
In our community, we are surrounded by people who try to intimidate. But I'm so glad at the end, it's just something inside of us, especially as Black people. There's something inside of us that screams to be courageous, that screams to be bold, that screams to be powerful. And I'm sure it's with everybody. But I can speak as a Black man. There's something in me that when you come to bully me, I don't care how big you are, there's something in me that says, nah, it ain't happening, bruh.
Right.
Either you gonna back up or I'm gonna back you up. And that's what has to happen. We have to get to the point where we overcome our fears. Once we overcome our fears and embrace love, that's the thing. It has to be an exchange. We have to overcome the fear and then embrace love. Learn how to love, learn how to be loving, learn kind acts, learn how to restrict yourself from doing impulsively violent things. When you do that, when you begin to discipline yourself, discipline is something because discipline deals with you. Manipulation deals with others. When we learn how to discipline ourselves, that's how we detach from the manipulator, because we learn how to We learn how to discipline ourselves. So that's what I say. Discipline ourselves, get away from fear, learn to love.
Go ahead, Trees.
I'm good.
See, the only one they have a finger. See that? Give people the opportunity to have a finger. They don't even want the finger. See what I'm saying?
She's a good example. She set the example. I would have learned.
No, that's fine. No, Marcus.
I'm getting there.
That's fine. You know, I don't. You know what? No, all jokes aside, I don't mind it because like I said, this conversation was definitely needed, and I truly appreciate all of y'all and y'all's input, because I literally did change the topic like at 3:00. So I believe in being relevant. I don't believe in, I'm not going to get on anything and be all happy-go-lucky and talk about relationships and clown and joke. And I'm not in a clowning and joking mood like that. You know what I'm saying? When you're dealing with something heavy that's on your heart, you got to be true to that, and you got to be real to that, and you got to be able to express that. And, you know, want to have a conversation that's going to drive change. And I want to be an agent of change. I'm not a person that likes to stay in the status quo. I am not a person that likes to stay within the lines. I have learned how to color outside the lines. You know, for so long, you know, we were taught outline it first so that you don't go over, you know, same thing when you put on lipstick, right? Put on some of y'all don't put on lip liner, but that's a different topic for a different day.
I don't.
Neither do I. I know how to color.
I don't either, but
some of y'all need to put on lip liner. That's why your lipstick be all the way up there and it don't be where it's supposed to be. I'm just saying that's the true tea. I'm just trying to help the folk learn how to put on lip liner, and then, you know, your lipstick won't go all over the place. Just saying. Lip gloss is a different subject. You don't have to do it with lip gloss, but when it comes to that lipstick, the line helps you. Just saying. Anyway, I'm sorry, y'all. You know, you gotta listen. It was such a heavy day. You gotta joke around a little something. I'm sorry, but I believe that this was really
no doubt about it.
You know what I'm saying? Shit, it was heavy. Damn it. But I believe that this was an important conversation to have, and it really, and all jokes aside, all of y'all really enlightened me, and I appreciate it, because sometimes when you experience some things, you begin to lose a little bit of hope. You know what I'm saying? And me and my friend Gail, we had this conversation the other day as I was walking for 2 hours, and it was on Tuesday actually. And one of the things that we were talking about is faith. And we were talking about the Bible, and we were basically saying how when you truly read the Bible, people always want to say faith over fear. And that's just not biblical, because the Bible is very clear when it says now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen or unseen, right? So when you're dealing with something as far as faith is concerned, there has to be hope. But that hope comes from a substance. And we don't like to deal with words. You know what I'm saying? We just say stuff. Now faith, now, right? This now faith is the evidence, is the substance of things hoped for. So if it is the substance of, that goes together. Things, that's something within you. Hope for. Something within you that you hope for, that is giving you your now faith. And then you have to couple that with evidence of things not seen. I might not see it, but I have this hope that is on the inside of me for these things that then draws on my faith. But we constantly want to run around with this foolery talking about faith over fear. When the Bible speaks of fear, it is not speaking of the same type of fear that we face. The Bible tells us we don't fear man at all. The only fear that we should have is of the Lord. And that fear is not even a fear of being scared. It's a fear of not pleasing, right? Reverence to God. You know, so we get a lot of those things twisted up and get lost in the sauce and start quoting stuff. And it looks good because I ain't even gonna hold you. I got that good mask that say faith over fear because it was cute and it was nice. And you know what? We was all running around here scared of this darn coronavirus. And I was like, well, I got faith in God. You feel me? I'm not fearful of no man. You feel me? However, to put those two things together, truly, it does not necessarily go together. Faith has nothing to do with fear. Faith has everything to do with hope. Everything to do with hope is what drives faith. And we have to be able to understand that. And when people lose hope, they lose faith, which is why this is Nakia, this ain't the panel, I have a problem that there are 2 churches in an area. There are 3 churches in an area. There are 15, 20, 25, 30 churches in the area where people have lost faith. What are we doing?
Yes.
When I got all these churches and I'm surrounded by a faithless people? That's my problem.
You taking up an offering?
And you know, I think that's
stirring something up.
They teach. They're driven to teach by fear. I mean,
but let me take it a step further, okay? And I'm going to say this because I don't give 2 shits who don't like it. When my cousin was murdered back in like 2012, and we had that good funeral at that big church in Patterson, y'all ain't got no problem taking money. The reverend that was there, you got an offering from the family. But the only thing y'all cared about, because when I tell you they filled up that church, I mean, it was people from the whole, you would have thought all of Patterson came out, and they did. Did you see how many of them stood up and gave their life to Christ? How many of them actually lived it, though? How many of them had to go back home and go into a faithless society? But we don't want to deal with that. We want to run, jump, shout, foam at the mouth, hika mashanda, all that. We want to do all of that. And we don't have the slightest idea on how to build faith inside of a community that you're in.
Right.
You're right there.
Can I say this really quick? I got my good old finger up.
Come on, finger.
No, that's a good place to preach, is because what we got to understand is when you constantly ingraining in me fear, how am I going to have faith in my abuser? Because let the truth be told, the church teaches that God is some kind of, he like the police. He going to put his knee on your neck. And so how can I have authentic faith in somebody who I look at as my abuser, my oppressor, somebody who don't even love me like that anyways? And so, of course, I'm going to have fear and not faith, because that's what the church teach. Let's be honest. And so that's why it's so easy. I'm not going to even you know what? I'm just not going to even go there.
We'll say that for next month, because I got a whole good topic for this stuff. But I just wanted to end it there because that's where we at. When you're dealing with so much darkness, that's because there's no light. How the hell do you got 50 churches in a town and there's no light? What are you doing?
Pushing fear.
And the only time you show your light is when someone gets murdered senselessly. Now I got problems with that. And I don't care who don't like what I say.
You preaching.
Because I'm going to still be right there saying the same thing in your face. Because I mean what I say, and I say what I mean, and I stand in it. I done seen too much. Jersey City, same thing. A little boy, you got murdered in Jersey City. Some man got his head sliced off in Jersey City. How many churches are in Jersey City? The place of grace, the house of prayer. Y'all want to have all these little prophetic encounters, acting like y'all speaking something and ain't saying nothing. But what you do is you incite the emotions of people, but you're not shifting the heart. But we want to keep talking about this paradigm shift. If I see one more person use the word paradigm, I am going to cuss. Paradigm shift. You ain't shifted nothing yet. We've been in a paradigm shift for the last 10 years. Paradigm shift.
Right.
When that shift gonna happen? Yeah, I've been shifting in Corona. Corona's bringing about revival. All we see is death. Who the hell is living? Anyway, let me get off my good little soapbox because that made me hot now. But I'm saying what I'm saying.
Get it off your chest. Get it off your chest.
Trying to close. Y'all ain't gonna go help. Listen, y'all better help me put this.
I'm trying to keep my hand down.
Listen.
Look, we about to pull out the instruments. We got a praise break for you.
Listen. I'm tired, because I'm tired. I'm tired of what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And I'm tired of witnessing it within even my own family, and I'm tired of witnessing it in friends' families. I'm tired of witnessing this, watching the TV, watching the news, and hearing about it. That little boy that was murdered down in DC. I'm tired of it. And we all should be tired of it now. Y'all want to paint Black Lives Matter on grounds? But I'm going to need y'all to come on up into the areas that it matters and teach these young men that their lives matter.
That's right. That's right.
And instill hope in them and stop instilling fear and hatred in them. Because that's where a lot of this anger comes from. It comes from fear and hatred.
Mm-hmm.
And a lack of light. Where is the light? If our job as the church, forget these buildings, us as a people. I never forget when I used to always go out by my family over in Patterson and in New York, everywhere. Because that's just how I am. I'm that person that that's just what I do. And I never forget when I had just got out the car and I was going in the trunk to pull out my little chair, because that's what we do. We sit outside, right? Get your chair, and I always have my little off or something, because I always swore Patterson mosquitoes was like the death of me. I don't know why. Those mosquitoes would tear me up, and they wouldn't tear nobody else up but me. And I was getting out the car, I was getting my chair, and the dude, he was like, "You're different." I was like, "Thank you." He was like, No. You go to church, don't you? I didn't know him. And I was like, "How'd you know?" He said, "I could tell." You know what I'm saying? And I could respect that. You don't have to walk around here with a Bible and a collar on for someone to recognize who you are. I never forget, I saw a post and I thought it was the funniest thing in the whole wide world, because this man, he had a collar on, and I guess someone asked him, "Oh, are you a pastor?" And dude was like, "I mean, what you think? I got this collar on." Well, sir, just because you wear a collar don't mean you are what you're wearing. Hello.
Could be a costume.
Hello. Because many of us dress up in many things.
Or a lot of these.
Right.
Costume. That's what it is. It's a costume for some.
And not to slight the person that, hello, not to say that the person that was wearing it, is the costume wearer, nothing like that. That ain't what I'm talking. That ain't what I'm saying. So if they watching, I'm not calling you a costume wearer. But what I'm saying is that sometimes you are not what you're wearing. It is just for show. It is just to give off the illusion of this is who I am, and that's not who you are. But for someone to see you in just regular old clothes, because I had on my good little sundress that day, and they can, you know what? Shut up. And someone can recognize who you are in that. That's what we're here for.
Right.
And then begin to talk. And he talked to me that day. He was like, I was raised in church, blah, 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 all this, you know what I'm saying? And you talk to people. Because now you have a common ground to understand it. And because they've been watching you out there for so long, they understand that I'm not coming at you all well, you know, because the scriptures say, no, I'm not doing all that. I'm going to talk to you like me and you, we human. And that's what's missing. We don't want to talk to people like they are human. We want to talk at you. I'm going to talk at you. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. No, you can't tell me nothing. But what you can do is advise. You can talk. You can inquire. You can do all these things. This is how we communicate, you know. And I think that's a lot of what is missing, you know, because we lack understanding, which then breaks down all communication. Because we just want to tell people they're sinners. We want to tell them this. We want to tell them that. But we don't want to offer them hope. And if you don't offer people hope, you are diminishing their faith, period. And that's how I'm going to end it with that. So I want to thank y'all for truly rocking it today. This really did help me put a lot of things into its proper perspective. And in order to be that agent of change. And I hope that for anybody that watches this, that it will inspire you to also be an agent of change, a beacon of light, a beacon of hope for those that are around you, for those that are in your direct influence, because that's what we're here for. If we ain't here for nothing else, we're here for that. You know, and if you can't change the little people that you got around you, please stop trying to be a world changer. Like, just give it up. Just sit down and grow some more. You know, because we got a lot of imitators out here. We got a lot of duplicators out here. But we ain't got no real fire starters out here. People that are really, truly about it. Stop it. Because at the end of the day, people are dying. Whether it's by the gun, whether it's by drugs, whether it's, you know, at the hands of the police, whether it's at the hands of their own brother. And the true story is, I don't like using the terminology black on black crime, because that is a construct that is made up to be negative. But most crime takes place amongst people of the same race. Why? Because those are the ones you trust the most. That's facts. That's known in the FBI statistics. And the truth of the matter is, if I wanted to play on words with black on black crime, there's a higher percentage of white on white crime than there is black on black. That's just statistics speaking, as of 2017, when they last gathered them. You can research it for yourself. But they always want to highlight us. But they can highlight us because we still are killing us. Right. And we need to stop killing us, and we need to learn how to love us and understand. You know, I work out, and one of the things that the trainer always says is, he always says that the only competition is yourself. Ain't no competition here. Ain't no race in here. Right. It's you against you. And if we begin to think like that and stop thinking like as if we're in competition with our brother and our sister, this block is doing this, so I got to go over here and take this. You want to be a stick-up kid? Like Jamel said, learn how to do security. Learn how to truly protect. Learn how to truly be a go-getter and do it the right way. You know how to flip? Good. Because I got some t-shirts I want to make and run that. Run a business. Flip stuff the right way. But we got to stop the senseless killing within our own communities. It's been on a rise as of lately. I do believe, and this is my own personal opinion, and I don't care who don't agree with it, but as of lately within our communities, once we started screaming defund the police have literally lightened their load of patrolling our communities. And I believe that has been done intentionally, because now it's looking like, see what happens when there's a lack of law enforcement on the road? See how the crime has risen? Look at New York. Look at Jersey City. Look at Patterson. Look at Camden. Look at this. See what happens when you defund us? And it's like, y'all wasn't making that money anyway. Half y'all, if you're brand new, you're only making about $20,000, $25,000 a year, and you get the rest of your money off overtime. Tell the truth. You know, so we have a problem here. And I believe it's bigger. And one of the things they always want to tell us, you need to vote. Well, we voted y'all asses in, and what are y'all doing?
Nothing.
We done voted. What are you doing? We voted mayors, councilmen, councilwomen, district, whatever. We got all these things that we vote for. What are you doing? You want to cry? No, I'm gonna need some action out of you. I'm gonna need some action out of you, because at the end of the day, them tears ain't bringing back lives, and they're not saving lives either. We're gonna need some action, and now is the time for us to call all these people that have told us to vote for them because they were gonna institute change. Now we need to call them on their BS and say, okay, you said this. Now I need you to do it. And with that, I am done, y'all. So thank y'all for joining. I hope y'all tune in next week. We might be back on topic of relationships because I posted up them 2 questions for the single men and the single women, and some of y'all sent me. So hopefully next week we'll be back on that, and we will we will discuss that. Thank you, Donnie. He said my background is dope. You know what I'm saying? She gets backgrounds now. You know, you got when you trying to look like something. But I love everybody. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Tune in next week. We're gonna get back on this relationship stuff. Like I said, some of y'all sent me with this women proposing to these men, and whether a woman, well, y'all sent me with that one. So we're gonna get that. The devil is alive. But all right, we're gonna. Shut up, Marcus. Okay. See, that's why we're gonna talk about that next week, because we're gonna take a deep dive into that right there. So, like I said, now put your finger down. Love y'all. Love, peace, increase, all that stuff. And we will be back next week with y'all. Same time, same place, 7 p.m. every Wednesday. This is what we do. Peace.
All right.